Reptiles are boring, right? You might think reptiles are primitive, simple animals, like there's not much going on in their lives or between their eyes. But when you see what they actually get up to all day, it will change your mind about that forever. And today, we're gonna show you why. My name is Harrison, and this is Evan. We're twin brothers on a mission to share the real stories of our planet's wildlife while we still have the chance to. And to prove that reptiles are way more complex than you probably give them credit for, we're gonna share 5 of their incredible stories that will absolutely blow your mind. We've spent the last few months down in southern Florida, documenting a bunch of amazing solutions that reptiles have developed to survive their insane challenges. And that really has pushed them to the extreme. Because out here in the swamp, every day could be your last.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. Oh, wow.
This might actually be.
That is a huge one.
Now that is about as big as these turtles will get.
Absolutely.
Whew. This is a monster. Check out the size of that peninsula cooter. It's definitely the most impressive individual of this species I have ever seen. There's your head.
Stay there, actually, because this is not forced perspective.
No.
Look at Evan's head versus the turtle.
Bigger in circumference than my head. She's longer than our feet. This turtle is actually so big that we want to get some proper measurements. So measuring the top of the shell, the carapace from tip to tip, she is just about 14 inches, over a foot. And she is a very healthy turtle. We're saying she, and there's a couple ways we know that. I'll turn her around here and you can see she has that little stubby tail there. In this species, as with a lot of aquatic turtles, the females have shorter tails, nice long claws there that she'll use for digging out her burrow when she's ready to lay eggs, and just generally the size as well. Females do get bigger in this species. Now, the main reason this turtle was able to reach such an amazing size is thanks to the protection from her shell here, and you can see that it's been putting in some work. Check out these dents all along the top of the carapace here. This actually looks like it could have been an alligator that would have clamped down right there. And if that shell weren't so dense and hard, she would have been a goner for sure. And she can't close her shell like a box turtle could, for example, but she is able to completely pull her head and her legs all the way in where all of the softer, fleshy bits are protected from predators. Actually, we also noticed as we were filming some B-roll, she's missing a back foot. So she has definitely been through some stuff to get to this incredible size. As you can imagine, there's no shortage of predators that would be happy to take out a peninsula cooter when they're smaller, but once they reach this size, only a big alligator would be able to give her any trouble.
Peninsula cooters can live for over 30 years in the wild, and predation is a constant challenge for pretty much that whole time. But this turtle is living proof of how resilient reptiles can be. Their defenses clearly aren't perfect, but they can still be successful even many years after serious injuries. And considering where they live, that's no easy feat. The peninsula cooter is one of the most widely distributed turtle species in Florida, found in virtually every wetland habitat from well-preserved cypress swamps to urban waterways. They adapt well to different ecosystems because their diet is mostly herbivorous, so they can survive in almost any body of water with enough plants for them to eat. That generalist biology helps them adapt much more easily to human development, which gives the peninsula cooter a huge edge over other species. But there are some problems that even the best survival abilities can't solve. And for reptiles, injuries and illness are just facts of life.
Guys, I got a snake.
What kind?
Yeah, brown water snake.
Oh, nice.
Check this out. Now, this one is a little dull, but you can still see those big dark blotches running down the body. That's a good tell that this is a brown water snake.
Wow.
Now take a look at that. Unfortunately, he does not appear to be in the best of health.
Is this snake sick?
Very likely. It looks like he has an eye infection there. He's very lethargic and kind of thin, so we're definitely not going to hold on to this guy any longer than we have to. We don't even want to move him that far.
Right.
Now, these guys are pretty interesting. This species, of course, like all water snakes, are very strong swimmers, but they're also pretty decent climbers, and you'll often see them sitting above the water on logs or up in trees. Any kind of vegetation that's overhanging the water is a good place for these guys to be hunting. They'll be eating all sorts of little fish and frogs, eggs. Now this individual who isn't in the best of health may have trouble catching some of those faster species. It's very possible it could be an infection.
Yes.
You'll see how slow moving he is. I feel really bad whenever we see an animal like this. It's not doing so well.
How's he handling, Ray? Is he pretty calm?
He is, I think lethargic is the exact way to describe this snake. Very slow moving, not even trying to bite or really defend itself. We're not gonna have this snake for too long. We're gonna put the snake back. Hopefully it can get a quick meal sometime here in the near future. And we are wishing you the best of luck, buddy.
Recovering from an illness is hard for reptiles because it drains a lot of the energy they need for other important tasks. And in the spring, many animals have a particular activity in mind: breeding. And that's a pretty involved process for brown water snakes, since this species is ovoviviparous. Females carry their eggs until they hatch inside their body, producing fully developed offspring. This helps protect the eggs from predators and keeps their temperature stable, but it's very taxing on the mother. Their bodies become so bloated that they can't hunt effectively while the eggs develop, so females need to build up a big store of body fat to sustain themselves and their offspring. But that's a lot of work, and they can't always do it all before mating, so they've evolved to take their reproduction schedule into their own hands, so to speak. Now normally, development would start as soon as they're done mating, but female brown water snakes can manually control when their eggs are fertilized by storing the male's sperm in their cloaca and releasing it only when they feel ready. This gives them the freedom to delay the development process until they have enough energy, greatly increasing their reproductive success. But breeding biology isn't even the craziest part of reptile reproduction. Their courtship displays can be even more complex, and there's one species that takes this behavior to a whole new level.
Right behind us, we have a very impressive American alligator. And something interesting that these guys are up to now that it's getting to late spring, the alligators are in the middle of their courtship season. So this is not the kind of territory that an alligator would want to hang out in long term. But down in the permanent bodies of water, they're getting very active. And they have an incredible display that they'll do to stake out their territory and communicate with other individuals. So for the males that are establishing their territory this time of year, they're trying to communicate to any competitors in the area that this is my turf, these are my girls that I'm gonna try and mate with, and that's exactly what they're doing right now.
During mating season, male alligators stake claim to their territories and advertise their dominance to the girls and to their rivals. But they don't do that by fighting like you might expect. Instead, they dance. In a ritual that's been performed for millions of years, this male arches his back to expose his head and tail, then slams his jaws shut as he smacks the water, a head slap that announces his presence to all other gators in the area. His loud bellows proclaim that this is his territory, and while any female is invited, all other males have to stay out, and he'll fight them to defend it. This sounds intimidating enough already, but we're only hearing part of his announcement. Alligators are one of the most vocal of all reptiles. They make different sounds to express their mood from the day they're born, and many of those sounds are infrasonic, way below the range that we humans can hear. But in the most intricate part of the gator's display, we can actually see some of these sounds. He sinks down until his back is fully submerged. Then he calls out with a boom that sends vibrations rippling through his body as he shakes several times per second. This causes all the water around him to erupt into a formation known as the water dance, which is a signal to the females that he's healthy and has strong control of his body, signs that he has good genetics. This is critical for the female because she is the only one who will invest any effort into raising or protecting their offspring, so he'd better be able to pass on good genes. We are just starting to understand alligator social structure, but we know that it's among the most complex in the reptile world. Every bit as elaborate and multi-layered as the famous mating displays of birds, which are crocodilians' closest relatives, by the way. Once you start to learn how all the reptiles on our planet are related to each other, you start to see some crazy connections that prove how successful these ancient animals really are in terms of figuring out the best body plans to solve their problems. And if you thought the alligator is a perfect predator, just wait until you see the turtle that has evolved to function a lot like them.
Soft shell, let's go.
Wow.
Didn't even run. Look at that. This is the Florida softshell turtle. Not the first one Evan and I have seen this year, but the first one we've managed to get in hand because this is one of the fastest turtle species in all of the United States. They grow absolutely massive, in fact, the biggest of all softshell turtles, which makes them among the largest of all freshwater turtles in the country. Only the alligator snapping turtle and the common snapping turtle will get bigger than this species. Now, much like a snapping turtle, Evan and I have to be very careful around that head because not only do they have extremely long necks that they use to reach out and grab prey from a much farther distance than he's making it look right now, but they have pretty powerful jaws as well, so it wouldn't remove a finger probably, but that is not a risk worth taking. Now I flipped her around because I want to show you why they're called softshell turtles. Take a look at this. The back of this animal's shell is extremely leathery. So there is bone attached to the top of the carapace. If you listen, it is hard, but the whole backside is very soft and pliable, which not only makes them incredibly hydrodynamic, but also allows them to very quickly burrow into sand or loose substrate, so it gives them the ability to either hunt actively, which they often do, or set up an ambush and wait for prey items to come to them. This is more than likely a female, A, because of the size, but B, because of her activity. She is covered in dirt right now, especially on these big back feet. And the reason for that is more than likely the reason this turtle was crossing the road was because she was trying to find a spot to dig her nest. This time of year, these softshell turtles are coming out looking for soft substrate to burrow into, make a little nest, lay some eggs, and then get right back into the water. Soft shells are much more comfortable in the water than out of it. She's pretty awkward on land, but if she were to get back into the canal behind us, she would instantly disappear. So especially to have this big adult, about the biggest that this species will probably get around here, is very exciting.
You might think of turtles as slow, awkward animals, but the speed of Florida softshells is a giveaway that far from the peaceful behavior of many other chelonians, these guys are voracious predators. I mentioned that they can hunt actively or burrow into the bottom to set up an ambush, and that's why they've traded the protection of a hard, heavy shell for a softer, flexible one. The shell's flattened shape and their webbed feet are what give them the speed they need to chase down fish, frogs, and even small birds like ducklings, or slip perfectly into vegetation or substrate for an ambush. Another benefit of having so much exposed flesh is that softshells can actually take in oxygen directly through their skin, allowing them to stay underwater for several hours at a time if they're not moving too much. Now as for their head, I know it's, let's be honest, pretty goofy, but the weirdest things we see in nature always have a purpose, and usually the crazier something looks, the more impressive the adaptation actually is. Their sharp beak can easily grab and crush their various prey items, and they have surprising range with their bite thanks to their long neck. The neck has another function as well, because its length and their unusual pig-like snout work like a big snorkel, helping them to reach the surface to breathe even when they're fully submerged or buried in the substrate. There's no doubt that the Florida softshell is a weird turtle, but their uniquely challenging ecological niche is the reason they need such extreme adaptations. And they're not the only ones, because even the most well-known reptiles can hide some insane secrets that help them survive.
So right here we have a corn snake, and a really vibrant one at that. Like, look at the coloration on this guy.
It is a really beautiful snake, and that's one of the things that we love about these animals. Anytime you find a corn snake, it's exciting because they're just so beautiful and really variable too.
The ones I find out here are usually like a pinkish reddish color, but they do vary a lot, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. Down south of here in the true Everglades ecosystem, they can sometimes be more of a grayish color, and usually those color variations are a response to the type of habitat they're living in. So out here, there's a lot of marsh grasses, low shrubby vegetation that often has a lot of reds and yellows and golds in the colors of the plants themselves. To us, that bright orange color doesn't look like it would serve as very good camouflage, but for a lot of their predators that don't see nearly the range of colors that we humans do, this is actually very effective camouflage out in these wetland ecosystems.
I love how docile he is too. Look at him, so chill. That's why they make such popular pets. They're
Absolutely.
very calm snakes.
Calm, beautiful, variable, what's not to love?
Exactly.
Corn snakes are super abundant in Florida, so it's not uncommon to see several of them active in the same area. Their chill demeanor makes them fairly easy to observe, too, and the more you watch these guys, the more interesting they get.
He's not going to. This is a nice patterned corn snake right here.
A little bit bigger. Yeah, even
Yeah, bigger
bigger
than that first
and
one.
more golden than the other one we were seeing. This is a nice mid-sized corn snake here, and you can see, look at how he's stretching his body out like that. These are incredibly strong snakes.
Corn snakes are actually a kind of rat snake, which are famous for their ability to climb trees. You can see just how strong and sturdy it's holding itself out on my hand.
Wow, he's really cold, I noticed.
Yeah.
The other snakes we were working with earlier were a bit more heated up. But look at that, see how he's sticking out almost half of his body that he's able to completely support with those incredible muscles. Now, for such a cold snake, he's quite active. Sometimes when snakes are cold like this, they get to be a bit defensive, but this guy really isn't showing us any defensive behaviors at all. Just flicking his tongue, trying to get a read on the situation.
But hold on, why does he need his tongue to tell what's going on anyway? As it turns out, corn snakes have relatively weak vision, but they more than make up for it with their other senses. You probably already know that snakes smell with their tongues, but how exactly? Basically, they collect scent particles from the air and use a specialized organ on the roof of their mouth, the vomeronasal organ, to identify what they're smelling. But the real trick is the tongue's forked shape. The two tips function independently, and the snake can tell what direction the smell is coming from based on how many scent particles each side detects. Using their tongue to smell is weird enough, but did you know that snakes also hear with their jaws? Let me explain. Snakes don't have ears the way we imagine them, but they still have all of the internal structures that allow them to hear, just not the way you'd think. See, when sound waves hit a snake's body, the vibrations are transferred to the snake's jawbones, which through some crazy anatomy are connected to their internal ears. And since their bottom jawbone is split to help them swallow large prey, each side detects vibrations separately from the other. So snakes can actually tell what direction a sound came from by which jawbone the vibrations hit first. The fact that they can literally hear and smell in stereo makes corn snakes very effective hunters, but none of that matters if they can't get to their prey, which leads me to arguably their craziest ability. They can climb with their stomachs. They have wide, flat ventral scales that can grip onto rough surfaces like tree bark, and by using slow S-shaped motions, they create enough friction to pull themselves up totally vertical objects. Now, these abilities aren't unique to just corn snakes, but they're a great example of how well-evolved snakes are to solve the challenges of their bizarre body plan. But some snakes have it harder than others, and in the arid deserts of Chile, there's one species that's evolved some mind-blowing solutions to survive in this brutal environment. To see how the Chilean racer has conquered the world's driest desert, check out this video. And with that, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.
And guys, check this out right here.
Guys, and check this out.